and I will invite Ella and her two panelists up to the stage, and she will make the introductions. Please give them a warm welcome.
Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your patience there. I'm Ella Sagar. I'm a UK reporter for The Media Leader. I'm going to chair this session, and we've got about 15 minutes to chat about the power of original video, both for media owners and brands. So I'm delighted to introduce Josh Aroner, Vice President of Global Customer Marketing at Nokia, and David Bradford, who's Head of B2B and B2C at Bloomberg in Europe. Thanks for joining me both.
Thanks for having us.
So if we go back to the beginning, that's a good place to start. Josh, could you tell me a bit more about the objectives behind this kind of original video idea or this partnership with Bloomberg?
Sure. So I imagine many of you are familiar with Nokia, but perhaps not for the reasons that I would like you to be familiar with Nokia. Nokia today is a global B2B technology company. We primarily sell critical network infrastructure to telecom companies, but increasingly to large enterprises who are looking to digitalize their operations or use private networks in sort of new and different ways that perhaps Wi-Fi cannot handle in the new world. And so over the last year or so and launching last February, Nokia rebranded itself. They refreshed its brand after 50 years of really the same visual identity and brand promise that had built up a great phone company. But it was time for a change. And we did so with a desire to sort of get the B2B or enterprise buyer, the non-telco buyer, to reappraise who we are as a company and recognize us for sort of who we are today, not who we used to be. And that led us to a new partnership with Bloomberg, in which we've been working with them on a creative sort of go-to-market concept, leveraging video, but certainly looking at other channels that they have to market in the future to get out to that target audience of B2B buyers.
And David, so can you talk me through what the kind of the original video concept, how that came about, and then how it was tailored for, because Bloomberg's got multiple different channels available to it. It's very established in that space, and so that would be quite interesting to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. So we launched Bloomberg Originals back in February of this year. Obviously, many of you in the room will know that we've been one of the largest originators of business and finance video content for many, many years. But the idea of this was to give us kind of space to engage audiences in a more meaningful way, that's longer form content, really capturing the sort of zeitgeist in a way that perhaps business media typically doesn't, and business video doesn't. So, I mean, obviously it was perfect timing as we were having discussions with Nokia. But the main sort of reason for doing this was obviously we cover business and finance, but it gives us an opportunity to also talk to these audiences outside of business and finance. So we're talking about sports, climate, technology in a new kind of an interesting way. So it was well timed. I think also the audience is interesting. The audience piece. We've had Bloomberg Television for 30 years next year. This will be our 30th anniversary of Bloomberg Television. The median age for Bloomberg Television is 54. So it's an important audience. It's a kind of established leader audience. But we need to recognize that there are important audiences that are much younger for B2B. And to do that, rather than sort of change Bloomberg TV because it's important to that group, kind of launching Bloomberg Originals has brought that age down to about 35. So it's still kind of within the demographic and the target group of a lot of our B2B clients, but it's, and our partnership obviously extended across TV and originals as well. So I think the audience is key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in a room full of media folk, I think, yeah, we would be remiss not to talk about the audience and the targeting. Also the context, I think, here is quite important. And would you be able to talk to me a bit more about the importance of that in terms of the partnership and the campaign, the kind of target audience, and then what
yeah, I think on the one hand, you might say, well, clearly there's sort of an obvious target. You know, Bloomberg has a great sort of traditional finance, CXO level audience. But I think what really attracted at first is just the variety of channels that we can go down. And we may start in one and figure out that a different one is more applicable as we go. And I think having that sort of openness and flexibility as we partner with Bloomberg has been really, I think, exciting for us. We don't know what we don't know. We're going to go experiment, try things out, and see where it takes us. And I think, thinking about where Nokia is coming from, we have got to do something different. You're going to see in some, as you may get to engage with some of our content, we're taking concepts that are largely, some of you may work with in more of a high fashion industry, and bringing them to B2B. And B2B tech is pretty much blue, gray, and some product. It's not particularly exciting, and we just can't live there. And we can live there, but we can't live there and be successful. And so you're going to see lots of pops of color. I mean, we have floral going on in our video. I mean, stuff that you just wouldn't imagine. But it's nice when I walk around London and I see things on New Bond Street that we're doing now in B2B. And that excites me because it's different. And again, my goal is simply to get people to reappraise us. I don't need to convince them to buy everything I've got right now. I just need them to take a fresh look at who we are. And so that is a great opportunity for us. And then to have a partner that allows us to sort of flex and experiment. And I think us to allow them to do that as well. Because what they brought to us was not a fully baked idea. It was a concept. It was an idea. And then we sort of shaped it with them.
It's interesting because I think Originals has given our audiences an opportunity to also reappraise Bloomberg. A lot of this Bloomberg Originals content is very bold. It's very cinematic. I think traditionally, you had your consumer sort of partnerships kind of over here, and B2B was here somewhere. So I think with this partnership and with Bloomberg Originals, we've brought them a lot closer together. It's the sort of the type of content, the type of partnership that you would expect from a well-established B2C brand on a more consumer-facing platform. So I think that's what's been kind of really exciting. And we haven't really mentioned the talent piece. I think that bringing in some really exciting external talent, but also elevating talent that we have within Bloomberg. So for our particular partnership, we leveraged Emily Chang, who has long been on Bloomberg television. She's well known in the tech world, but how do we bring her to that audience that isn't Bloomberg television, that is a younger kind of audience that would really benefit from her kind of experience and expertise, but in a way that, in a format and a style that they appreciate, not a traditional Bloomberg television audience.
So both of the brands, kind of established brands like Bloomberg and Nokia, this was a chance for kind of a bit of a flex on both sides just to try to dip their toe into something new, essentially.
Yeah, I said that was fair. I think I would probably say that we're beyond dipping our toe a little bit on the original side. We've got some really exciting content coming up next year. We've got talent that is probably quite surprising for a B2B kind of video sort of network. In the UK, we've just we did a first season of a show called The Future with Hannah Fry, which many of you will know. She's a broadcaster, a mathematician, absolutely excellent, amazing talent. We're working with her on season 2 of that show. We're also launching a new show next year. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, you'll know Jamie Lannister, or I'm not a Game of Thrones fan, but so Nikolai Costa was joining us for a new kind of show that's sort of we're really excited about, and that's launching in February. So the talent's really important as well as a halo for our partners.
And I think in B2B, for quite some time, there's actually been great content out there. I think the channels are we tend to go down to what we know, and I think we've got to get more experimental about where we take the content. I mean, my team's been building fantastic content for the last few years, and yet I don't know that we've really stretched ourselves, and I think many of you in this room could help us get more creative about where we take that content. Why do we have to limit ourselves to the tech trades or to the stuff, places that they sort of seem obvious, and I think we have to do some of it as sort of hygiene, but stretch us,
So I think, so kind of what can B2B learn from B2C, or kind of borrow and make it its own?
I really struggle with the difference between B2B and B2C personally. On Sunday, I'm not a B2C guy, and on Monday, I walk in and I don't Google people. I mean, the same behaviors work across. My expectations as a end user, as a buyer, whether it's personally or in business, is largely the same. I go to the website, I sort of expect things to be where they are. I don't want to have to chase you to know where my order is. I want to sign in and sort of see it. I mean, I think that's a reality. I think, B2B is certainly catching up, but I don't see a huge gap between the two.
It's interesting because 65% of all of our page views for Bloomberg.com actually come from content that is outside of business and finance, which people are often quite surprised about. So it's, it is kind of a lot of content that covers kind of lifestyle, sports, etc. So clearly there's a strong interest from our audiences and that B2B audience in that content. And I think with Originals and with this partnership, we're taking it one step further, and we're delivering that content sort of in a way that's engaging for these audiences for a longer period of time, and kind of in their own, when they want it and where they want it across which platforms. We're launching actually Bloomberg Weekend this quarter, which is a new sort of way of engaging those audiences across TV.
Interesting. And I think Bloomberg Green was something as well that was quite an interesting launch around sustainability content, which I personally read. But I was going to ask both of you, on our prep call, we were talking about how this could be like the future of B2B advertising, so that it doesn't, like you were saying, it doesn't have to be grey and like all of these things. What would you say to that in terms of original video, doing original content?
I think B2B buyers are humans. They want to be entertained. They want things that are relevant in context, and also they want content they can trust. And I think so. You also need to think about both the content you're producing, how you produce it, how do you ensure it's trustworthy, how do you work with partners who view trust as critical to their brand, and then allow for some experimentation. I mean, I think that's. At the moment, I have a little bit of room that we can go experiment, try things, see what the data tells us, and go from there. But I think it's as got as good a shot as any B2C content to be a recipe for success. It does take investment. It does take some trial and error and learning, and then learning what works and doing more of it.
And what would you say is the kind of next phase? Or can you hint at any of that kind of for the partnership, for this original video kind of plan?
Well, we're actually just rolling out now, so I think we're sort of we're excited. We've got a fantastic set of content coming out, and then we've got to take it and see what we learn from it. I mean, I think that's the next critical step. What does the data show? What's the learning experience? I think for both sides of the partnership, and then. I have all the confidence both in the team as well as our agencies to sort of figure out creatively where we take it, but really just having that open mindset.
I think what I'm particularly interested in as well, we talked about this last week, was measuring the earned opportunity, because we've obviously invested a lot in talent. We're doing video that's very different in the B2B space, and there's an opportunity there from an earned perspective, right? So we've got a commercial plan with a paid strategy, but these videos get in the multiples of millions organically as well, and obviously the partnership benefits from that. And I think we need to get better at sort of measuring that, and I think this is an opportunity for us to kind of look at how we can better measure that earned space and report back.
We've got about a minute left. In about a sentence, what would one key takeaway be for everyone in this room about this kind of original video strategy with Nokia and Bloomberg? What would be kind of one key thing you'd want them to walk away with?
I guess when I think about it, it's be bold, take good, smart risks, and then just find the partner that gives you sort of that trust and comfort that you can do it and be successful together.
David?
I would say that we use the word video just generally to describe anything that's kind of video. I would say look at Bloomberg Originals, see for yourself. It's a very different way of approaching video, and don't be scared of longer video. I mean, where everyone's talking about shorter video and shorter sort of levels of engagement that are lower, we're sort of bucking that trend with Originals. We've got short content, but there's also real space for kind of longer content as well.
Yeah, it's interesting if you think about it in terms of like short form and long form in the podcast conversation as well. It's similar, maybe, that long form isn't so bad. Right, I think that's all we have time for. Everyone can thank my panel, and we'll be up next for something else.
Thank you.